So there comes a time when being an anime and manga fan when you start to consume a lot of the media and you tend to get to a point where not anything and everything becomes enjoyable to you, so eventually you start to drop series that seem less interesting to yourself in your own rightful opinion. For me, it's been quite tricky and over the years, because usually when I get to a point in a series when I decide to drop the anime and or manga, it is most likely when I watched a good portion of it. And you could say, well, that's just a big waste of time, and I won't disagree to some extent, because in the long run, it definitely feels like I wasted my time watching and or reading these series. So in most cases, when I run into this problem, I try to just move past it in a sense, but in today's case, I thought it'd be fun to go on through some of the anime I've personally dropped due to a plethora of reasons. But as always, before we hop into the video any further, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already, that we can keep up with all your favorite anime and manga content here on the channel. Also, don't forget to turn on the bell notifications, that way you stay up to date with everything anime and manga also here on the channel. Also, I'm not necessarily saying that I will never pick back up on any of these series like ever again, because knowing my curiosity for some of these anime, I might eventually pick them back up, whether it be in the form of the anime and or the manga within the future. I'd also like to point out that even if I don't ever pick up back any of these series, that it's not the end of the world, and if one of your favorite series is on this list, then who really cares? And at the end of the day, this is just what I dropped, and the way I would look at it is that if someone were to drop One Piece, for example, due to the length of the series, well, I'd just say they'd be missing out. So just think of it as me missing out on some of your favorite series from the catalog of all the anime I've dropped. So to kick things off, we have Fire Force. Now, this was a series I was highly interested in back during the time of its initial release, with all the other big hitters getting animes like Dr. Stone and Vinland Saga. Initially, the premise and setting of Fire Force just wasn't my thing, and after finding personally a lot of the characters to be lackluster at the time, not really getting too involved with the whole ideology of super firefighters fighting these infernos, I just couldn't wrap myself around to really finding this interesting enough to continue. However, I did find myself watching the entirety of the first season after its completion and patiently waiting for season 2, and still at the time I've only managed to get a few episodes in just because I wasn't so interested in the direction the story was going in, although there have been a few characters that have stuck out to me like Benimaru and Arthur towards the beginning, but other than that, I could never find myself finding my way back to this series. I've heard the manga is great though, so maybe I should just check that out in the near future to see what's going on. Now, this next one was to be expected. I feel like considering a majority of its fan base nowadays are all just manga readers, but then again, actually it still remains to do extremely well on the charts for weekly anime watches, so honestly I don't even know, but Boruto Naruto Next Generations was another series that after loving Naruto for so many years and even still to this day, I felt like I was obligated to watch this series, and I stuck with it actually for quite a while, making it all the way to the 100 episode mark I believe, maybe a little bit less if I recall correctly, but inevitably dropping it because of a lack of interest during a ton of the filler arcs. And I do actually plan on picking up the manga for a later date and potentially for a collab video in the future, but as of right now, the anime just wasn't it for me. I feel as if after the Naruto and Sasuke versus Momoshiki fight, that's where it really took a toll for me, and it just ended up feeling like a chore to get through at certain points. I honestly don't know why they still decide to make these huge filler arcs in between the manga, but at the same time, I understand they're trying to milk the money because they know diehard Naruto fans will probably eat all that up. Regardless of that though, the anime just got boring, and hopefully on a later day I will get back to it in the series, but only in the form of the manga. Next up though is Fullmetal Alchemist, and no, I'm not talking about Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I already watched all that series and did an entire video on that, so if you want to go and watch that, go ahead and check it out for yourself. But for context, I had this whole dilemma with Fullmetal where I actually went and watched the original series first, then I was told and just realized that FMAB is just a far more superior adaptation, and that its ending is accurate to the manga, in which the OG Fullmetal Alchemist has a totally anime original ending. So I ended up dropping the original series about 20 or so episodes in, and actually after making that video I was just mentioning a second ago, a lot of people were telling me that I probably should pick back up on the original anime because it does kind of give off this different vibe and sort of this different direction than from what FMAB gives off. And of course I noticed that from the episodes I watched, but I think it definitely is worth going back to and picking up someday, because I feel like after watching FMAB now, I could kind of compare and contrast the two and see if this anime original ending is anywhere near to what the ending of FMAB 3 gave off to myself. So this one, out of everything I mentioned so far, probably has the best chance of getting picked back up, as of right now at least, but it is still something I dropped, so it's gonna have to return for a later day. Moving on though, we have 7 Deadly Sins, and I think I speak for a majority of people when it comes to this, but the 7 Deadly Sins anime became something almost out of a picture book, or like a slideshow for that matter. I believe it was season 3 or season 4 when it just completely fell off the grid, and it, to be honest, became something unbearable to watch at times. I was always a fan of the original series from the first few seasons, and even the movies for that matter, but once they decided to switch studios, I think it was, or just the budget cost for everything went completely off the table, was when I just stopped caring. It got so bad to the point where it became a meme across all social media platforms for a period of time, and after that I just never bothered to pick up the manga because it genuinely was a series I enjoyed in the form of the anime, and I just didn't care enough to spend my time reading the manga to see how things wrapped up like. I don't think I'll be picking up the manga anytime soon though, and I'm aware that there's a sequel as well, which doesn't pique any of my interest at this current moment, but who knows. Like I said, things are subject to change with time, so maybe I might pick it up on a later day. Just as of right now, it's staying dropped. But finally, before we end out the video, we just have one last series to talk about, and that is none other than Fairy Tail. Now, Fairy Tail I think has just always been stuck as this series to me, where I've been so heavily fascinated by the world it was presenting, as well as the power system in it, but I remember just having too much of a hard time pushing through the episodes because of the lack of interest I had in the plot, and it never really helped out when over the years everyone kept saying Fairy Tail is trash and it's a waste of potential. Although I will say it has been the longest time since I've watched it out of any of the series on this list, so maybe now my opinion will reflect differently on it now, to a certain degree at least. But for as it stands, Fairy Tail is a solid series from what I've watched. It's just not as interesting in terms of its main developments and premise. I'd also like to say characters like Zeref and Laxus are really well done, and Fairy Tail out of the bunch has definitely a few well written characters, so maybe one day I'll jump back into the series, especially since they just announced a new 100-year quest anime. But as of right now, if you all would like a part 2 to this video, let me know in the comment section below, because I believe I do have quite a few more anime that I've dropped but just didn't make it to this video. But for now, these are each of the animes I've dropped. But with that, everyone, I think that about wraps things up. This has been Augie. As always, make sure if you enjoyed the video to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let me know what anime and or manga you've dropped in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to turn on the bell notifications, that way you never miss out on one of your favorite anime and manga videos. We also have a Discord in the link in the description box down below if any of you would like to join. And with that, everyone, my Twitter is @AnimeAugie, and I'll make sure to catch each and every single one of you guys in the next video. Peace.